Hi there, my name is Kayla Fulton, and this is my Leader and Advocacy interview presentation. This is Brenda Caker, my interviewee. Brenda Caker is the Executive Director of Every Life Inc., and Every Life Inc. is a nonprofit bringing hope to empowerment to the community of Malindi, Kenya. Brenda is a friend and also is someone who I have volunteered with in Kenya. Because we're both in two different states, our interview was conducted over the phone. There is a picture of Brenda and I on our first trip to Kenya and another one of her and one of the kids we sponsor. All the photos you see are ones that I took myself on my last trips to Kenya. So to get started, I asked Brenda what are some of the responsibilities were as an executive director. She shared that since they were a smaller nonprofit, that she was in charge of different aspects. Some of her responsibilities included oversight of programs and projects in Kenya, bookkeeping and connecting and building relationships with donors for funds, and also volunteer engagement. She shared one of her bigger responsibilities is making sure their nonprofit and the programs are compliant with the federal law in both the states and the Kenya government. Next, I asked her about her leadership style. Brenda shared she saw herself as a relational leader. To her, she wants to be the leader who can create safe environment, especially people who volunteer and go on mission trips with the nonprofit. And she wants to be supportive and have people be bold enough to be honest and ask questions. This made me think of the advocacy characteristic of being credible. Someone who has this characteristic is sensitive to everyone involved, and Brenda does a great job of this through leading her teams on mission trips and allowing the space needed for the people she's advocating for and others she advocates with. I asked Brenda what kind of decisions she has to make and what data or information helped with those decisions. She shared that a lot of it was how to help people on the ground in Kenya and also financial decisions. There are also networking decisions and like how to connect better with donors as well as what platforms to use to best reach people. Brenda said the best way to make these decisions is to gather feedback on the ground in Kenya from the people who the decisions will affect the most, and also the input from her team that also work in the organization. Next, we talked about learning opportunities that are provided through this nonprofit. Brenda thought people who go on mission trips to Kenya. She shared about people getting to learn about new culture. She shared that through this, people may even have a chance um, to see or learn something about how they perceive others, and also may learn something new about themselves, how they may perceive themselves. I loved her sharing this because I too have experienced it myself when going to Kenya. The next thing I asked Brenda was how she assessed people in her organization. We clarified this a little bit more to what does she look for in people who are going to be on the board of the nonprofit. Brenda shared that she wants people who are open-minded and can see both sides of things, especially with dealing with a different culture. She also seeks people who are confident in sharing ideas and input. My next question I had was one of my favorite responses of the whole interview. I asked Brenda how optimism plays a role in the organization. She shared what she has to have as a balance of both optimistic and realistic views. I love the way she described that when you're too optimistic, it may be your mind is thinking of your own culture here in the US. You have to be realistic to what's going to work in the culture she shares, in their culture in Kenya. Next, my final question was, how does she advocate for others? She shared what the whole nonprofit did and stood for was advocacy for those in Malindi, Kenya. Going out there and building those relationships, then being able to come back in the States and share those stories is how they advocate for others. It really was a great experience to interview Brenda. The biggest themes I saw in her response were building relationships and not being afraid to leave your comfort zone. I feel these all fit well, especially with the kind of nonprofit and advocacy work she's doing. I got to see more of what happens behind the scenes of running a nonprofit, and I believe that my characteristic of being a good listener would fit well with working within this nonprofit because you not only have to hear the stories of people in Kenya, but also hear the stories and input from the others you're working with. I also think working with Brenda and this nonprofit will help me grow in getting out of my own head and thoughts when advocating for others. This is an area I need to grow in, and I can do this by getting out of my comfort zone. These are my references, and I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch.